Guys, I'm actually flattered right now because Lenovo has labeled this laptop model after me, the IdeaPad Pro. I'm gonna lose our retention for that one, aren't I? But seriously, guys, this right here is the brand spanking new Lenovo IdeaPad Pro 5i. It is rocking some of the latest hardware Intel has to offer at the time of this video. So the configuration we have here today has the Intel Core Ultra 5 series processor. We also have 16 gigabytes of LPDDR5X memory, Intel's newest integrated ARC graphics, a modest 512 gigabyte SSD, Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5 on board, and of course this is a 16-inch Quad HD Plus display. Now the Pro 5i has a lot to prove. It kind of sits between the mid-range and premium segment, so our expectations are pretty high for it, and in this review we're going to answer the ultimate question of whether or not this is the right laptop for your needs, so let's get into it. Some things never change, like the packaging the Lenovo IdeaPad comes in. I mean, they've been spamming the same box style for I think close to a decade at this point, but it's what's inside that counts, right? Because behind a ton of protective packaging, you will find the crown jewel, the IdeaPad Pro 5i itself. Of course, we'll come to that in a quick minute. We also have the inclusion of a 100-watt USB-C charging adapter. It is worth noting, however, depending on which configuration you get, you might get a different adapter entirely. You also have the standard wall outlet charging cable piece and then some documentation to go with the laptop. One of my favorite things about the Pro 5i is its new design element. So it still keeps the embodiment of IdeaPad with that business-like design, no unnecessary textures, no unnecessary grooves or angles. It's clean and it's simple. It'll do great in a casual or business environment. That Arctic gray color continues to really suit the body of this laptop. Lenovo's been using it for some time and I think it's a smart choice to keep that running. Now you also have a full metallic exterior, which makes this laptop feel 10 folds more premium than the base IdeaPad 5 series. You also have a weight of approximately 4.3 pounds, so it's fairly light for a 16-inch laptop and should be okay for all-day carry, generally speaking. Now, again, starting with the top side, like I mentioned, you have that Arctic gray color with a metallic exterior. It looks clean, no unnecessary textures. I love it. You do have some subtle branding on the corners there with the Lenovo badging right there, but other than that, there's really not a lot more to say here. Now, all the ports for this laptop are located on either side. A quick caveat, depending on which configuration you get, port standards can vary a little bit. So the configuration here is more alike to the base model. So you basically get a HDMI 1.4 beat port, which is slightly dated, but don't worry because you also get a Thunderbolt 4 USB-C port and one more USB-C port with power delivery and DisplayPort 1.4 functionality. On the other side, you will find two USB-A super speed ports. You also, of course, have the good old headphone jack and a full-sized SD card reader. For the most part, the port standards are accustomed to modern day standards, though HDMI 2.1 should be a standard at a laptop of this class. The bottom side of this laptop is pretty standard stuff, so you do have a removable metallic lid over here. You'll also notice you have a lot of air intake vents. They're long and linear, which is nice to see. And then you also will notice you have two speaker grills, one on either corner, so this is in fact a bottom firing speaker setup, and we will do a sound test a little bit later on. As soon as you open this laptop, you gain an immediate appreciation for the generous amount of palm rest space you have on this thing. Additionally, you'll also like the fact that the metallic exterior continues here with that Arctic gray color, giving it a premium feel. Skewed towards the left side is a colossal sized trackpad. Look how large this thing is with all that surf real estate. Unfortunately, that's not a glass surface finish. Despite looking like it, it is very much a pseudo finish. So it is still plastic, just translucent, and you can definitely tell Lenovo cut corners over here. The result is that you do have a little bit of flex on either corner of the trackpad, which really is unfortunate, though it's still a good trackpad. It's tactile, it's well calibrated, but again, they could have just kind of included a glass surface one given the type of laptop we're talking about here. The keyboard is a bit of a downgrade by Lenovo standards. We'll talk about that in a minute. So things start off well enough. You've still got those semi-rounded corner keycaps, which look great. They're well labeled. They have that professional appeal. The keyboard is also fully backlit, so it looks nice. You have a full-size 10-key number pad thanks to the 16-inch form factor here. And generally speaking, it looks nice. However, the minute you type on it, you can tell there's less key travel compared to previous IdeaPad generations, and this really does take away from the fantastic feel feel that we're used to on Lenovo trackpads. Now, it's not a bad typing experience by any means, but it's definitely a downgrade from Lenovo standards. Right past the keyboard, you kind of have this pseudo grill. It's not a speaker, it's also not any sort of outtake or intake vent. It's kind of just chilling there. However, right past that, behind the hinges, you actually have the heat exhaust vents, which are directly facing the screen, which could have some potential implications for long-term wear and tear. They should have been on the sides, honestly. Now, with that said, the hinge itself is decent. It's the same as previous generations. It's a single tier mechanism. There is a little bit of wobble, but you get a full 180-degree tilt. It should be fine enough for the lifespan of the device. Display fitting is pretty modern, so you do have a plastic enclosure as opposed to a metallic one. However, the actual chin is pretty thin and you won't notice it for the most part. The bezels are also nice and slim, so they provide a good degree of immersion in line with modern day standards. And then at the top, you have a relatively thin forehead. You do have a bit of a bump towards the center because that's where the full HD webcam is situated. And also you do have a built-in time of flight sensor, which means you get Windows Hello recognition. Unfortunately, the webcam itself is okay. There's a lot of noise in medium to low light settings, so keep that in mind. Still here, I'm so happy to see that. If you're enjoying the content, please consider subscribing to this channel, liking this video. They take a ton of time and effort to make, and you doing those things shows your appreciation, but also allows me to grow this channel and make sure that I can make more content just like this. Let's continue. So the display is super interesting here. It's worth noting that depending on where you are in the world and what configurations are available, you might have the option to access a higher end OLED variant, and even within the LCD panel, there are going to be minor variations in the configuration. So the one we have here, for example, has the 16-inch IPS panel with a Quad HD Plus resolution, which gives us a nice 16:10 aspect ratio. We also get a 120 Hz refresh rate, which again should be standard with a laptop like this, so it's nice to see. And then you also have a matte finish for a anti-glare coating, which helps quite a bit. But the best part is that you get a peak brightness of 350 nits, which is more than ample for most external environments, and it's good to see that as well. You don't have any sort of touch captivity here. Now, in the color department, you have a 100% sRGB rating, which is great for general creative purposes. It has nice lifelike colors, they're vivid. While not the best display out there, it's pretty good for what it is. A quick recap of the specifications. Again, we've got Intel's Core Ultra 5 series processor here, 16GB of LPDDR5X memory, and yes, we've got Intel's integrated Arc iGPU. Depending on where you are, again, you can upgrade the configuration to a Core Ultra 7 processor and also to a discrete RTX 3050 GPU. However, no matter which one you get, the baseline here should be standard, so you'll get great day-to-day performance with stuff like web browsing, Word document crunching, and general productivity-based activities. Even more demanding activities like programming, writing code, and executing it are all very much viable activities with this laptop. Now, it is worth noting if you're doing stuff like 3D Studio level animations, you are going to find that the Core Ultra 5 is a little bit on the lower side, and you may want to consider a laptop that has a discrete GPU and a more powerful processor. However, the most demanding of activities like 4K multi-layer 10-bit video editing on programs like DaVinci Resolve was not so great actually. So I found compared to the 13th generation i5 chips, there's definitely a bit of a downgrade here. There's a little bit more lag with real-time playback. I had to really reduce certain settings to be able to get a viable editing experience. Now, it's an Ultra 5 chip, so that's understandable. And I also think because this is a semi-new architecture, there will be more optimizations for a lot of programs, which will further improve performance, but initial results show mixed performance for stuff like video editing compared to previous generations. Gaming, on the other hand, has seen significant improvements. For example, games like Fortnite can now run between medium to high settings at a steady 60 frames per second on integrated graphics. The ARC graphics really are impressive, and Intel deserves a lot of respect for bringing iGPU close to ultra budget level discrete graphics, which in itself is not an easy task. In terms of thermals, again, we're seeing some great improvements across the board. So I found that under unrealistic peak loads, this laptop hits a maximum average surface temperature just around 38 degrees Celsius, which is about 5 degrees less compared to previous generations. Also, under more realistic sustained loads, you can expect a temperature of about 35 degrees Celsius. Again, very reasonable numbers here. Now, fan noise, on the other hand, keeping in mind this is a dual fan setup, can go all the way up to 50 decibels. Yes, it is audible, but the good news news is that it only really goes on when you're doing moderate to intense activities. If you're doing general web browsing, for example, you'll hardly ever hear the fans go off. For those of you who are interested in self-upgradability, you'll be kinda happy and sad. So on one side, RAM is not upgradable, it's entirely soldered, so you don't have any options beyond the 16 gigabytes provided to you. On the other side, you get two M.2 slots over here, one of which of course is preoccupied, but plenty of opportunity to upgrade storage, and technically speaking, you can also upgrade the Wi-Fi module down the road if you so desire. You have a 84 watt hour battery here, which actually gives you an impressive 13 hours of runtime based on our general productivity real-time test, which is a significant improvement compared to previous generations. These speakers on here are honestly just awful. They're bottom firing, they're 2 watts each, and they sound dry. There's practically no bass at any level. There is a little bit of distortion, higher volume levels, and they sound lifeless. Honestly, just use headphones. Here's a quick sound test for reference. Give me a sign, will everything be alright? I need a sign, cause I don't wanna waste my time. Sometimes I don't wanna wake up, I feel tired in my bed, wanna lay up. Watch TV instead, about fake love. Let the drama unfold with my brain numb. Yeah, I'm still digesting everything that's going on, second guessing if this world is a place worth saving. I feel lost in this world as a with the asking price of approximately 1,150 USD for this configuration, you are paying quite a bit. However, the IdeaPad Pro 5.5 has a lot to offer. You get a high quality exterior that feels great and looks great as well. You also, of course, have a great display even at the base configuration thanks to that Quad HD Plus resolution. And given the fact that performance here has seen significant improvements, especially in the efficiency department, such as battery life, runtime, thermals, and just general productivity, it's a laptop that I can wholeheartedly recommend in a lot of ways. There are certain things to look out for. For example, if you have a creative workflow with video editing, there is a lot of improvement to be had, though I suspect in the coming months as a lot of programs become more optimized for Intel's new architecture, we'll see improvements. But generally speaking, I think Lenovo and Intel have done a great job in bringing a lot of elements up to speed with this laptop, and this is by far the best iteration of the Pro 5.5 that I have personally reviewed yet. The laptop, again, I can recommend for the most part. Let me know your thoughts on it, and if you enjoyed the content, make sure you consider subscribing to this channel, liking this video. It genuinely helps me grow this channel and means the world to me. Thank you so much for your viewership. Catch you in the next one.